They say a lie can circle the world before the truth even gets dressed. But sometimes the truth doesn't need to chase. It just waits, patiently, recording. Brookhaven was a city that wore its weariness like a second skin. Streetlights flickered through the fog, halos dissolving into the damp night. Rain had begun its slow descent, turning streets into mirrors reflecting fractured neon and the occasional brake light. Somewhere, a siren wailed and then died off into the distance. Inside a parked cruiser, engine humming low, Officer Mark Tilden sat rigid, fingers drumming on the wheel. The reflection of his badge glinted under the dashboard light, a small metallic echo of authority, of power, of everything he wanted to be seen as. Mark's face was chiseled, dark brown hair slicked back, eyes sharp but calculating, almost predatory. His uniform was crisp, tie perfectly straight, shoes polished. Every detail screamed professionalism, but the subtle tension in his jaw betrayed a man always plotting, always a step ahead, or so he believed. Next to him sat Eli Navarro, 34, his eyes steady, earnest, a kind of weariness that belonged to someone still trying to make the world right. His short brown hair was slightly damp from the drizzle, the edges of his uniform softening under the folds of a standard-issue jacket. Unlike Mark, he had joined the force to protect, to serve, to see justice done in real time, not to bend it to his advantage. "Quiet night," Eli murmured, sipping from a paper cup of lukewarm coffee. Mark smirked, one corner of his mouth curling in a practiced way that was more unsettling than comforting. "Quiet nights are for rookies. Give it a few years. You'll start wishing for noise." Eli smiled faintly, unaware that tonight's noise wouldn't just challenge his patience, it would nearly cost him his life. At exactly 11:42 p.m., the dispatcher crackled over the radio, a voice tense and clipped. "Unit 217, possible narcotics deal, 800 block of Bristol Avenue. Black SUV, 2 male suspects." Mark's hands tightened around the wheel. "Unit 217 responding," he replied without hesitation. "No backup." He never asked for backup. Eli noticed nothing of the tension flickering across Mark's features, the calm before a storm. As the cruiser navigated the narrow, rain-slicked street behind the laundromat, the SUV loomed ahead, obscured in shadow. Its windows fogged, hiding whoever, or whatever, might have been inside. Mark killed the headlights. The darkness pressed in, almost tactile. "You take left. I'll approach right." Eli nodded, drawing a slow, calming breath. The radio fell silent. Then, in the hush of wet asphalt and dripping eaves, he heard it, the first gunshot. Eli dove instinctively, heart hammering. He drew his weapon, eyes scanning through rain-streaked darkness. "Mark, you okay?" Another shot ripped through the night. Mark's voice rang out, authoritative and urgent. "Shots fired. Officer down." Eli's gaze darted, trying to locate the shooter. There was no one. No shadow moving behind the SUV. Only the acrid scent of cordite and the echo of a single violent act. Then came the sharp, searing pain across his ribs. He collapsed to the wet pavement, vision swimming with rain, neon reflections, and confusion. Looking up, Eli saw Mark's figure looming over him, gun raised, eyes wide, face taut with calculated control. "Don't move." Mark barked. "Backup's coming." Everything went black. Eli woke in a sterile hospital room the following morning, bandaged, stitched, bruised, and trying to piece together a fragmented memory. The fluorescent lights hummed above, indifferent. A nurse entered, clipboard in hand. "You've been visited by internal affairs," she said casually. Eli's chest tightened. And then the twist, the story wasn't his. According to Mark's report, Eli had fired first. He'd lost composure, forced Mark to react defensively, and allowed the suspects to escape. Eli's protests felt hollow even to his own ears. He had barely drawn his weapon. Mark's word carried weight. 15 years on the force, spotless record, commendations stacking like bricks behind his reputation. Within 24 hours, Eli found himself on administrative leave, suspicion hanging over him like storm clouds. At first, Eli told himself it was a mistake, a bureaucratic error that evidence would soon correct. But silence can speak more loudly than words. His colleagues' eyes drifted away when he entered the room. Whispers followed. "Watch who you partner with, huh?" The casual jokes that once filled the squad room evaporated. Slowly, painfully, Eli understood. Mark had not just betrayed him this night. This was his pattern. Mark was a master manipulator, a man who built careers from bending stories, rewriting memories, and bending truth to suit his needs. Tonight, Eli Navarro had become the scapegoat for a crime that was never his. Mark's confidence was unshakable. Overconfidence, really. He had done this before. Tampered with dashcam footage, misplaced SD cards, submitted overwritten drives. But one thing had changed. A week prior, the department had installed a new automatic bodycam system. Every file uploaded automatically to a secure cloud server the moment an officer docked their equipment. Mark, too arrogant or too lazy, had ignored the memo. He never considered that the very tool he thought he controlled would become the instrument of his undoing. Renee Collins, 27, was quiet, meticulous, and new to the IT department. She had stayed late that Friday running routine system checks. One file caught her eye. 43 minutes, timestamped the night of the Bristol Avenue shooting. Renee Collins' fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitating for a fraction of a second as if she could will herself to stop. Then she clicked play. The monitor flickered and the footage jolted to life. The hum of anticipation in her chest became a low, electric tension that crawled up her spine. Mark Tilden's gloved hands appeared first, gripping a gun with a deliberate precision that made her stomach churn. Every movement, every twitch, betrayed a man who believed he was in total control. The camera angle was unsteady, darting between parked cars slick with rain, the lens catching droplets as they bounced off asphalt and windshield. Streetlights glimmered on the wet surface, fragmented, dancing in time with the jittery motion of the handheld bodycam. The city night was alive and oppressive, fog rolling in like a gray tide, swallowing the faint neon reflections of shop signs. And then she heard Mark's voice, low, rehearsed, unnervingly calm. "Stick to the plan, Navarro. Don't do anything stupid." Renee froze. Her heart pounded as the words sank in, heavy with menace. There was no background noise, no distant chatter, no footsteps. Only the patter of rain and Mark's commanding tone, slicing through the silence. Then came the first gunshot, a sharp, violent crack that reverberated off the brick walls of the alley. Her stomach dropped. There were no suspects visible, no shadowy figures lurking, no SUV occupants to justify the sound. Only Mark, alone. The camera swiveled, capturing him in chilling detail. The calculated look in his eyes, the cold set of his jaw, the way his fingers squeezed the trigger again. Another gunshot echoed. The second bullet struck someone she recognized immediately, Eli Navarro. He crumpled to the wet asphalt, rain mixing with blood, his body shuddering in disbelief and pain. Mark's voice came again, this time raw, cutting through the static of the camera audio. "You idiot. You fired first. What were you thinking?" Renee's hands shook so violently that she nearly dropped the tablet. The truth was there, unassailable, uncut, time-stamped down to the exact second. She rewound, paused, zoomed in, and watched the horror unfold again. Mark had created his own trap, and in the process he had condemned himself. The betrayal, the cold calculation, the deliberate framing, it was all recorded, immortalized in the mechanical eye of the bodycam he had so carelessly left behind. By the following morning, the footage had been escalated to internal affairs. Captain Ramirez, a grizzled veteran who had known Mark since his rookie days, watched in grim silence. He didn't speak for several long moments, his eyes never leaving the screen as the events replayed. The hum of the monitor and the faint beeping of the bodycam created a rhythm that mirrored his rising heartbeat. Finally he leaned back, his face etched with a quiet fury. "Call him in," Ramirez said, his voice low, deliberate. Mark entered the room moments later, carrying the arrogance of a man accustomed to obedience, his badge gleaming, chin raised, the faintest trace of a smug smile on his lips. "Captain," he greeted, attempting casual authority, though the tightness around his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. Ramirez didn't return the smile. Instead, he tapped the tablet, and the room filled with the sound of rain, the sudden gunfire, and Mark's own voice, words that now carried the weight of damning proof. For the first time, the carefully constructed mask of confidence slipped. This is out of context," Mark stammered, desperation creeping in. "Context?" Ramirez asked quietly, coldly, letting the single word hang like a guillotine over Mark. "You shot your partner and blamed him." Mark's posture faltered. His empire of lies, built meticulously over years of manipulation and deception, crumbled in the silence of undeniable truth. "It's over," Ramirez said firmly. "Turn in your badge." By noon, Mark Tilden was no longer a cop. By evening, his name trended across Brookhaven's local feeds. The official statement read, "An internal investigation has revealed misconduct related to the Bristol Avenue incident. Officer Tilden has been terminated effective immediately." The bodycam footage never went public, yet inside the department, it became legend. a cautionary tale whispered with a mixture of awe and fear. The man who had manipulated truth and perception for years was undone by the very device he had arrogantly believed he controlled. 3 weeks later, Eli returned to work. No ceremony, no apology, only a quiet reinstatement letter slid across his desk. He could have pursued lawsuits, could have gone public, could have demanded recognition. But he didn't. Deep down, he understood the true revenge had already been exacted. Mark's legacy, once of power, intimidation, and control, would now be nothing more than a whispered warning in locker rooms and briefing rooms. Late one night, Eli parked his cruiser near the same alley where the betrayal had occurred. The rain-slicked streets glimmered under the red and blue flash of his lights, reflections rippling like memories on water. He stepped out, watching the wet asphalt mirror the fragments of that night, the gunfire, the fear, the cold betrayal, and the silence that had followed. He glanced down at his Bodycam. Its tiny red light blinked steadily, recording the stillness, the quiet, the truth. "You never stop watching, do you?" he whispered. The light blinked once as if answering. Eli smiled faintly. Some truths don't need witnesses. They just need time to echo. Weeks later, Mark sat alone in a sparse apartment outside town. His badge was gone, his name ruined, his pension under review. But what haunted him was not loss, it was sound. The faint, mechanical beep. The red light. The hum. He kept hearing it in his mind, a ghostly replay of the moment he had betrayed his partner. He could feel the weight of it in every corner of the room, in every shadow, in every pause between heartbeats. In the end, it wasn't a whistleblower, a confession, or public outrage that destroyed him. It was himself. His voice. His lie. Recorded, stored, and replayed forever. Some truths are patient. Some truths are merciless. This was echoes of revenge. Where silence speaks louder than anger. And justice always echoes back. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories where betrayal meets justice, and karma always finds its echo.